6 inches of water is not an awful lot to support about 800 kilos of boat and engine in a man-made stream on the Waimakariri River, but that's all they have in this jet sprint. Hello and welcome to the Waimakariri Jet Sprint, the Charisma Waterbeds Jet Sprint this year, where we're down to our final 16 qualifiers. They've all had 2 runs, they qualified to 32, and then they've had another run, and throughout the day we'll eliminate them down half each round until we get 2 finalists. Co-commentating with us again is Mark Cromie, and Mark, you had a little mishap yourself this morning.
Yes, Tony, but that's what jet sprinting's all about. One wrong, slightly wrong error, and you eliminate yourself.
Well, luckily you've got Bruce Street driving the boat as well. This is a sport where you can have 2 drivers in one boat, a little like a rally sprint, so you're going to get the boat around anyway.
Yeah, Bruce is on form. He's probably suits this type of real shallow driving, putting up a really good time. I think he holds fastest time at the moment.
Is it going to be one of those courses where it's the man who stays off the gas just a little and steers it round safely and keeps the boat in the water, or is it one where we can have a little advantage for horsepower?
There's still going to be a horsepower advantage because there's a lot of time in this course. The channels get blasted out with the V8s with that high-powered water coming out the back. So it is going to get faster all day, and a lot of these guys like Morel McKenzie, he just wants to qualify into the 16, and he's done that well, so he's going to be a hard man.
Bear in mind with the competition that what you did in the previous round becomes irrelevant when you enter the next one. So even if you've gone extraordinarily fast in the round before the one you're in, it doesn't matter. You've still got to beat half of the field in the round that you're in at any given time. First man up into our round of 16 is the quickest qualifier, Bruce Street, with Ross Kircher co-driving. Share 400 cubic inch in a Hamilton 1328. Let's see how they cope with this tight and twisty course.
This is the new concept of jet sprint boating, Tony. Roll cage, full harness seat belts, and you really do need them when you're hanging on going into these corners. It's very shallow through there. The boat's been performing exceptionally well with Bruce putting up fastest qualifying time.
We'll get a split time for you if we can as they come back into that main channel. 27.63.
Tony, he's looking a wee bit untidy into some of those corners. The 400 cubic inch Chevy is a lot of weight in the back of it in a shallow, windy course. This boat suits a more straight type course. But Bruce is on form today, I'm sure. All he's after is a clean run, good time. He's proven that he can do it. He's through the hard stuff now, coming over the jump, and he's made it.
1:01.01, that's a good time. He had qualifying yesterday of 1 minute, 0.69.
It's interesting watching the AC Delco sprint boat go around this course with Bruce driving it. He's just slightly getting untidy as he's trying for a faster time. And as he throws the boat sideways, he's losing a lot of the forward thrust. And it's forward thrust, he needs that forward speed to get the time down. And this is why you start getting slower. As I call it, you're slurring your corners, and you really have to keep that boat heading forwards, not sideways. And you can see it in the way it jumps over the jump here, the bottom construction of the boat, the planing strakes there. It's the way it grips on the water on high-speed cornering.
Here's Morel McKenzie, boat number 36. He's from Bluff. Jane White is the co-driver. It's a Macraft sprint boat and Chev 350 power. They're away.
Morel is probably one of the best jet sprint drivers around at the moment. He always drives a course with a lot up his sleeve. All he has to do is qualify, get his boat through, and he's in the top 16 anyway, so he doesn't have a lot of problem. Well, Morel has Jane navigating for him. Jane's very light, Morel's even very light, so the hull's light, and it does really help in a sprint course.
See just how quickly they jump up out of corners. 350 to 400 horsepower and a boat less than 13 feet long.
It must become quite a handful at times, Tony. But it does corner the better way, round into those holes and straight out of the hole too, without really lifting the nose up.
You can see from the higher shots just how shallow the water is, 2 and 3 inches deep in places.
I'm just wondering, Tony, when are they actually going to stop and run into half an inch of water?
58.11, that is an astonishing time. 58.11, the quickest time so far for Morel McKenzie of Bluff. Followed by Greg Tullett from Christchurch. Cameron Parr, the crew. It's a 1986 Hamilton 132 Sprint with a Hemi 265. Almost exclusively V8 territory in this final round of 16. This is one of the very few six-cylinder engines that have made the top bracket. The Hemi 265, which because of the inline motor and the weight distribution, the power-to-weight ratio, has made a very successful jet boat engine over the years. One imagines if the development continues at the same rate, that it's going to be all V8s before very long, and around 400 cubic inch instead of 265 cubic inch.
The only thing I can see about this boat, Tony, is he very nearly drives with foot flat to the pedal all the time. He does a good clean run because of the weight distribution in the back. The 132 is very well suited for this motor. Hamilton's have put a lot of effort into developing a sprint hull, and they certainly have proven with the 132 that they do have a good sprint boat. The hull weighs about 300 pounds, hull, deck and screen, so then it's only a matter of the people, the roll cage, the paint job, the sign writing and all the little bits and pieces that you have to carry. Last weekend he got through, Greg, into the final three in the CB Marine Jet Sprint, so he's on form today. He did go a bit, yes. I shouldn't really say that, Tony, on form today.
Seems to be the kiss of death, doesn't it? They get 20 seconds from the time they go aground before the siren sounds, and they're excluded. But realistically, once you get to this round of 16, any stoppage is really effectively going to eliminate you.
You can really see how light that boat was, Tony.
And the siren's gone, so Greg Tullett is eliminated. No second chances. This was how they ran aground, coming from the mainstream back into one of the smaller little dog legs and just getting it a little bit too wide. Getting the tail coming around, up on the shallows, out of water, and too late. Here is the World Marathon Champion, Ken McDonald from Christchurch. In boat 48, he's crewed with Austin Cole. It's a 123A Hamilton with 350 Chev power. Man who did exceptionally well in the World Marathon Championships held over rivers in the North and South Island, coming out as the new world champion as a rookie, and also a very good sprint driver. Has driven rally sprints and in rallies as well.
Ken's a very aggressive driver. I've never really seen Ken make a mistake, and that's what it's all about. No mistakes in sprinting because you're just totally eliminated yourself.
One of those guys, Mark, that got in a rally car first up in a sprint and went exceptionally quick, which is most unusual for somebody. At the time he was driving a BDA Ford, and that kind of horsepower is not often handled easily by a rookie.
That's right, but I think he's used to that type of aggressive driving, and that's all you have to be. Drives too like a sprint driver. This is a relatively new boat of Hamilton's. They've just decided to shorten the length of the hull. Got the same design on the bottom as the 132, but it's a 123.
That's a good time for Ken McDonald, 58.3. And I noticed in there, Mark, a couple of shortcuts that are possible, obviously.
Yes, that's right.
This is John Hallen from Waitoa, Windy Horn crewing, 86-litre hull with a supercharged Chev 350.
John's a very aggressive driver. He's got the supercharger in there, so he's full of horsepower. He's probably a way above horsepower above everyone else, but it's a handful with another 150 pound on the top of the engine. John's from Northern Districts. He's a long way from home, but he's done a lot of jet sprinting in his day.
Ken McDonald's time, 58.3.
Did we get a slack time on Ken?
To me as though he had a little bit of time up his sleeve as well. I think we're going to be down to around 53 by the end of the day.
I see John was breaking the decibel reading yesterday, but I think he's got everything sorted out today. It's very shallow up that piece and into that dog leg there.
I think he's taken in some stones because he's not getting the forward motion for the amount of revs that he's using.
That's right. The jet is very much like a vacuum cleaner. If you suck anything up, you don't get rid of it till you turn it off.
59.32. Should still be quick enough to get him into the next round of 8. 58.30, the quickest time so far for Ken McDonald. Fraser Hamilton in boat 89 from Winton with Ian Dodds crewing. It's an 87 Macraft sprint boat with Chev 350 power. Very popular power plant. Qualified just over the minute. 1 minute and 91.
I'm sure that Fraser's got a lot up his sleeve. I'm sure he'll do a 59 this time because he's really got nothing to lose. He's an aggressive driver, and if you are aggressive, you keep the boat up on top, you don't draw a lot of water. It's important to keep your speed up around this course. It's so shallow in places. That's a very good split time of 26.21. Out into the deep water, back into the hard left-hander, into the pull, quick Yui, that pull's very deep, it's about 12 feet, into the shallows. Round through the dog leg. I'm sure they won't go round that island at the end of the day, Tony.
Certainly got tiny lines onto the water, 58.71. It's a tough, testing, torturous course around here with only about 6 inches of water in many of the places. We asked some of the leading drivers, some of the top qualifiers into the final round of 16, just how they see the course and what they think the times will be by the end of the day.
A cool, calculated approach, keeping plenty of power in reserve to power out of a corner, making a careful, slow approach into it.
You've got a fair amount of horsepower there. Are you going to be using it all?
I think I'll have to at the end of the day, yes, certainly.
What sort of times do you think you'll get down to by the end of the day?
I think the winning time will be around about 53.55. Whether I can attain that, I'm not sure.
Well, what I'll be trying to do is to try and to straighten the course out as much as possible, and on those tight corners trying not to let the boat bog down too much. It's only going to slow me down.
I think, Tony, the secret is just to drive within yourself. Don't overdo it. There's a lot of tight corners. Take it easy. Concentrate and then do your best after that.
Well, I'd say it's big balls.
And what do you think the time will come down to by the end of the day?
We'll come down to around about 54, 55.
Derek Clark from Taitapu near Christchurch, along with Lance Roper, the co-driver. This is an 86 Macraft 390R with a Chrysler Hemi 265. One of only a couple of 6-cylinder engines to make the final 16. Used to be a very popular jet boat engine, getting a little overpowered now by the 350 and 400 cubic inch V8s that have become the specialty in these sprint boats.
Yes, well, Tony, the Macrafts actually won last year with the Hemi, remember, and the boys are now back with the V8s, going faster too. But he put up a reasonably good qualifying time with the Hemi, but I think he drives with the pedal to the metal, and he hasn't really got a lot more time to pick up on the course. The only thing when you've got excessive power is you can get tidier and faster in straight lines. If you have to throw the boat sideways, it does cut a lot of its forward speed out.
This is a good tidy run.
Yes, it certainly is. There's a very shallow corner into that pool there, just over those shallows. Round the dog leg.
That's another little shallow piece there where that island is. 101.14.
Well, Tony just knocked 9 seconds off his fastest time. How do you do 9 seconds?
John Watson with the aerofoil on top. It's an 86 Hamilton 132 with another of the Hemi 265s.
It'll be interesting, Tony, to watch the two boats, because both boats, the last boat had a Hemi in it. This one's got a Hemi, but different hull designs. So they're reasonably matched for power. Perhaps John may be a wee bit more aggressive driver because he's used to this type of sprinting, but his last time was a 101, so he's really got to better it.
We've already seen the last competitor take 9 seconds off his best time, so obviously the improvement is possible for a number of these drivers. I don't know how much use the aerofoil will be on a course this tight. Probably of more use on a course that has the odd straight in it.
Good for sign writing though, Tony. Good down shots for sponsors.
Time to beat 1:02.41 to get into the next round of 8, but as anyone goes quicker than that, it reduces.
Yes, he did beat his time. He did a 1:00.46.
The man who was in the World Championship marathon boat, co-driving with Ken McDonald, is Colin McCall, a very experienced sprinter in his own right. An 86 Hamilton 132A sprint hull with a Chev 350. He's had a number of successes over the years at sprinting and marathon racing. Very experienced jet boater with a lot of knowledge.
He's a very cool driver. He will only go out to do the time that he has to qualify for.
Pretty crisp sounding 350 Chev too.
Yeah. Ken's a hard man to beat in sprinting. He perhaps doesn't like these type of really windy courses. A wee bit more open channel may suit his driving, but I'm sure he'll manage with what's been put in front of him.
A little harder for the drivers following the lead man. The man that goes first can read the water a little better than after it's been dirty and muddy. Very hard to read the shallows.
And I think, Tony, the creek would be even a wee bit lower after throwing all that water out of the course when it wouldn't have time hardly to fill up again.
Be nice if you could organise a delay in front of your run.
Yeah. The boat's full of roll cage equipped and ready to handle anything, really. And Colin's a very steady driver. He's putting up a pretty good time so far. I'm sure he's going to do just under the minute. No, he's just, what did I say? Just enough to qualify.
Rob Gerard, number 83 from Christchurch, with Mary beside him. 86 Hamilton 132 hull, 265 Hemi powered.
Looks like, Tony, that Hamilton certainly look like they have between the Hamiltons and the Macrafts, they've certainly got the market sewn up in the sprinting at the moment.
Almost everybody using Hamilton jet units as well. Often the Berkeley's more preferred in marathon racing.
We haven't quite mastered the Berkeley for the shallow type rivers. They tend to unload themselves too quick and don't like too much shingle. Well, this was the same boat that I was just going to say is the same boat as John Watson, and it'll be interesting to see what time, but he's definitely out at that.
Well, he may be able to get it going again before the 20-second siren goes to exclude him, but that will be irrelevant because times are so tight for qualifying, his chances are gone. Another man who did very well in the recent World Marathon Championships, Neil Ross from Gore. This is a Sonic 1986 hull with 6.5 litre Chev.
Neil Sonic, the Sonic and the Hamilton hull is sort of one of the two hulls in Canterbury that really do outstanding times. The Sonics have just slightly been off the pace today, but this one should do pretty well. He's got to really bet his last timer at 1:02.95 to get in, but I'm sure Neil Ross has a lot up his sleeve. Dave's from Autographics, who does all the painting, Tony, on the boat, so that's why it looks so nice on the sides with all its nice stripes.
28.5 seconds through the split, which is not really quick enough. He's going to have to make up an awful lot of time on the second half of the circuit. 1:01.01 still the time to beat, and they run aground.
He's all right, he's in the deep pool. It's about 12 feet, because I saw someone get out of their boat before. It's cost him a lot of time, though. You can't afford one little mishap like that. But still, this is a family production boat, so it's hard to beat the small race boats.
Well, that cost him, and that is going to exclude him. 1:01.01 was the time, and so Neil Ross is out. Ready for a start now is Graham Gale in boat 42. He's from Outram and Otago. Rosalind Gale is the co-driver. It's an 86 Azuril with Leyland P76 power.
Well, Tony, it looks like it's people from down south or around Christchurch. We're all the North Islanders. There must be enough of them around north that sprint. Oh, that's a shame. I think that was nearly my old corner, Tony, earlier on in the day.
I think it's trapped a few out.
So I know what it feels like. Terrible.
Hard luck for Graham Gale. They'll be able to get it going again, but the times are too tight at this end of the competition. And you don't get any second chances with a breakdown like that. One of the things you've got to watch for in these tight little dog legs is that you don't bounce off one wall and therefore put yourself offline for another. Have a look at this. On the inside, they're bouncing and getting it out of line so that the next corner is all askew. They're in the shallows, they're high and dry. Waiting to be placed in the starter's hands is Tony Gillespie from Harriet and Southland. Co-driver Tony Turner. It's an 87 laser craft with 350 Chev power.
This laser craft does seem to handle the course very well. He's a wee bit down on his qualifying time, but I think he may have had a little problem earlier on. Tony's a very experienced driver. I think I better not say about how experienced people are at driving, Tony.
It was actually funny watching qualifying yesterday, Mark, because the PA commentator was doing precisely the same thing. The moment he said anything complimentary about any of the drivers, they ran aground.
Yeah. Did anyone say anything today?
Tony Gillespie and Tony Turner looking good as they came into this part of the circuit. Boat handling very, very well indeed. The back of it coming round just nicely to be in the deep water. And then they just overdid it. See Tony Turner, the navigator there, just pointing the way, keeping the circuit in mind for Tony Gillespie. But they just overdid it, ran aground, and that was the end of it. 25 seconds lost and the end of qualifying. So the quarter-final with the 8 competitors through to the next round. Morel Mackenzie, the quickest qualifier. They'll go in this order. 58.11 for Morel Mackenzie. McDonald on 58.3. Fraser Hamilton on 58.71. Rodney Pohio on 58.77. John Watson 1 minute, 0.46. Colin McCaw 1.69. Bruce Street 101.01. And Derek Clark 101.14. In the last 3 years since we've been televising this jet sprint, the development in the boats has been absolutely phenomenal. A few years ago, you could run a modified family class boat or perhaps even a marathon boat and hope to succeed or at least get to the final 16. Nowadays, you'd be very lucky to do that without a purpose-built boat. We'll have a little chat with Mark Cromie about what a purpose-built boat is. It seems like around 13 feet is as long as they are and somewhere around 400 cubic inches of V8.
Yeah, that's right, Tony. 13'6" is sort of the Hamilton 132 type boat, down to 12 footers. 12 footers just seem to be a wee bit untidy to handle at real high speed, but they're getting around this shallow course exceptionally well.
Well, Mark, if we could just have a look at the boats that we have here. This is a 132 Hamilton hull, and it's a 350 cubic inch Chev that's been cranked with a 400 cubic inch motor, and they're running very high compression, but it's the sort of motor that will only last for short bursts, isn't it?
Yeah, I call it a sort of a 10-second hand grenade. If you drive it for perhaps more than 10 seconds in one burst, it's liable to be a bit of an explosion in the back end.
Well, if we have just a little look further forward in the boat here, we'll see what the other biggest development is in the 3 years we've been televising. People have been saying for years that jet boaties are a little dangerous because, unlike any other form of motorsport, they didn't have roll cages and they didn't have seat belts. Now, that's a fairly big development, isn't it, that everybody's running them now?
Yes, I've found that, Tony. From my own experience, we had a 1.5 roll last weekend in my little Sprinter. No damage at all, really, to the boat, just a cracked deck. No damage to people, and that's very important. Now, the roll cages, I find the driving of a boat with a safety belt harness system allows you to concentrate on staying in the seat, not having to keep your own body G's on corners into the boat. Allows you to drive better, faster too.
Okay, we've had a look at the horsepower and a conventionally aspirated 350 cubic inch Chev motor. If we have a look at this one, Paul McDonald's, here's another way of getting your horsepower with a supercharger. They haven't been used to a great extent. 1 or 2 competitors have used them in the past, but that's really instant horsepower, isn't it?
It is really, Tony, but there's a wee bit of a problem with the supercharger. It adds 150 pound to the top end of the engine, which, you know, when you're throwing the boat violently around corners, it is another 150 pound you don't want. I think the ultimate boat, which you'll see next year, will have aluminium 400 to 430 cubic inch Chevys, because it's 200 pound out of the back end of the boat.
And we're likely to see methanol injection and a bit of nitro before we finished?
Yeah, there's the odd boat here with nitro, but really haven't got time to play with all the buttons and controls that you may need. I think the weight factor, to reduce it by 200 pound in the back, is the best thing you can do.
Quickest qualifier into this round of 8 is Morel Mackenzie with 58.11, and you'll notice that's absent from this round of 8 is John Hallen, who was disqualified for refuelling on the water. That's a no-no, you've got to do it on the trailer. So he is excluded and Bruce Street gets in. Morel Mackenzie's from Bluff, Jane White is the crew, a Maccraft Sprint 87 Chev 350. The first three places, Mark, being held by Chev 350-pound hulls.
Yes, I think the 350 Chevs are doing exceptionally well today. Morel is one of the most aggressive drivers on the course. I'm sure that he'll knock 2 seconds off this time. We've just got to look for a split time if we can see it. And this Macraft is certainly performing well. We have a split time of 25.66. These boats have come a long way since their first little oyster boat they had last year, unpainted, and they've certainly got a nice little sprint boat.
Morel McKenzie, the quickest qualifier so far with 58.11. Let's just see what he can do on this course. 56.57. Second fastest qualifier, Ken McDonald, the world marathon champion. 58.3, his qualifying time.
Ken's got the new 123 Hamilton sprint hull. He has Austin Cole with him, and Ken's a very aggressive driver. Ken's always on the pace all the time, not just some of the time. But he has a very fast time to try and beat. With a 58.30, he's really got to screw this machine around.
25.80.
He's slightly off the pace of Morel McKenzie just by
split time.
The split time, but boats change their characteristics at different parts of the course.
So 1, 2, 3A hulls, Chev 350 powered. First, second and third qualifiers in Chev 350s. The old small block Chevy is a wonderful racing engine.
He's got a lot of stones in his grill. It's interesting watching this boat leap out of the hole at the start line with that water spray out the right-hand side of it. It's coming out of the engine department, and that's so as he can see what water's flowing through his engine.
Rodney Pohio will follow. He's from Kaiapoi with Michael Peters, the crew. It's a Sonic hull with 400 Chev.
The Sonic SS hull is handling this course extremely well. I was quite surprised he put up such a good time, but the 400 Chevy has got a lot of power it develops. And with 4 350 Chevs, 2 400s and 2 Hemis, she's definitely a GM match against the Hemis, and I just don't think the Hemis will quite have it today. So with a 25.16 split time, that is a very fast split time. That's faster than all the others.
Let's just see how much he can drag off that time. He wants really to be down on the 56s. 58.77, the qualifying.
He's really got a bag full of stones in the jet unit, but he's all right.
Seems like everyone is having the same problem. 57.36. Almost the same as Ken McDonald for Rodney Pohio. Now Fraser Hamilton. He's from Winton. Ian Dodds, the crew. 87 Macraft with Chev 350. 58.71 his qualifying time. Around 56 if he can. High 56s will do it at the moment.
Yeah, Tony, I'm sure Fraser will knock at least a second and a half off that time. He's got nothing to lose. He's really got to go for it. The boat's a good boat to handle these conditions.
Enormous amount of spray being thrown up by that Chev 350, sounding very crisp and sweet.
Let's see if he puts the same time up as the split time. We had the fastest split time at 25.16, so and this boat did a 25.66 earlier on. .25.81 split time. He's slightly off the pace of the other three competitors we had around a few minutes ago. It just shows you with two different drivers in the same boat, the times do vary a wee bit. That boat really climbs out of holes. He's certainly throwing it around. I'm surprised someone hasn't taken the shortcut over the island. .57.16.
On to Colin McCall in our round of 8. John Watson has been eliminated. He ran aground, and the time to beat is still 57.36. Colin McCall from Kaiapoi. With Rayward McCall as the crew. 86 Hamilton 132A and Chev 350.
Colin was saying one of the advantages of taking Rayward is the weight factor. Rayward's only about 7.5 stone, so it certainly does help. Colin crewed with Ken McDonald in the World Marathon last year when they won it, so Colin knows all about jet boating. He's a very good sprinter. And with a split time of 26.80, he is off the pace through the splits. All the rest have been in the 25s. So Colin will have to really work hard. I don't think he's on the pace.
Certainly not a long arm style. Just have a look at how he hunches over that wheel. Very aggressive driver.
The boat just seems a wee bit slower out of the holes than the Mack craft, you know, when it just climbs out.
He's too slow. 57.36 was the time to beat. 59.17 is too slow for Colin McCall. And now waiting to go is Bruce Street from Christchurch with Ross Kircher crewing. Hamilton 132A, 1987 hull with a Chev 400. Board, I think, marked to 423, isn't it?
That's right. This is one of the AC Delco team boats. It's painted very well. Good sponsorship for the sprinting. The sprint boat does really well. It's did a good times last weekend, and Bruce knows how to handle these shallow courses with the boat. I feel he has to drive it very aggressive this run.
57.36, still the time to beat. We'll have a look at his split, 25. Yes, that is a quick time because he had 27.63. 25 odd is a quick split time.
Yes, that's the second fastest split time, Tony. The boat quite often doesn't look all that fast, but it's got mufflers on it, quietens it down a bit. He lost a lot of time out of there, but he did turn it very well. Through those S's. Gee, I feel that he did lose time in that last corners.
He might just get inside it. 57.4, just too slow. Hard luck for Bruce Street of Christchurch. Have a look at the amount of work that the navigator's doing here. Now, Ken McDonald says his navigator is simply ballast, but a lot of these drivers, including Bruce Street in this boat, use the navigator and watch where he's pointing them. They know the circuit, but it's still nice to have reassurance from the man sitting beside you. This boat was starting to get rather untidy at this stage. Navigator's still showing him where to go, but have a look as it comes into this next section of the circuit. And it's getting a little wide. He gets too wide coming into the next corner, and as a result loses forward motion and loses probably a second or so. Let's have a look at the entry to this.
You can't afford to give that sort of time away, Tony, on these courses. You've got to do clean runs. See, just too far around with the back, and there's, you know, a second and a half there. And again.
And now Derek Clark in the Mackcraft 390R Chrysler Hemi 265 power. Most of these Chrysler Hemis modified so that they're producing somewhere around double the horsepower of what you'd expect in a road car. He's from Taitapu near Christchurch.
Well, Tony, we have two Mackcrafts in the finals at the moment, and a Hamilton and a Sonic. So just let's see how the other Mackcraft goes.
Last runner in this round of 8, Derek Clark from Taitapu.
It shows you, Tony, it only takes one corner with us slightly too hard, and you really do lose the time. With Bruce's good split time, let's check this split time. 26.43. It's not quite on the pace.
Well, that equates to somewhere around 58 seconds. Unless he can pick up an enormous amount of time in the second half of the course.
See that, Tony? A lot of time lost in that corner there.
He's about the third competitor in this round to do the same thing.
I think you tend to come too fast out of the mainstream. You've got to keep that boat moving forwards.
All the adrenaline running. Let's have a look at the time. It's too slow. 59.04. And now we get to the really sharp end of the competition, the semi-finals in the Waimakariri Jet Sprint. Bruce Street missing out by just 0.04 of a second. So the final four are Morel McKenzie, Fraser Hamilton, Ken McDonald and Rodney Pohio. Well, we begin the final rounds with 16 competitors, but this year, as with other years in the jet sprint here, we've had over 100 entries from all over the country, and many of them don't get as far as the finals with 16. Mackenzie has been consistently the quickest competitor right through, and now the quickest into the semi-final in the Macraft Sprint 1987 hull with Chev 350. And this thing really leaps clean out of the water when he takes off. Amazing power, a very short boat, and a very accurate driver, Morel Mackenzie, from Bluff.
Morel Mackenzie really knows how to handle this hull. I think he can stretch it to the limits. He hasn't even shown us what it can really do. I'm sure he'll increase his split time. He's got nothing to lose except if he bombs out, he's over, and he knows that, but he's still got to put the fastest time up. Now let's look at his split time. He did a split time of 24.48, which is the fastest split time of the day. His last one was 25.66, so
if he can do the second half of the course as quickly as he has in earlier rounds, he's going to be well ahead. Almost overdoing it there. He got out of it quite well.
That boat seems to recover, Tony, very quickly out of the wrong decision or the wrong place that you put it into.
Just sheer horsepower. 55.1. We're down to the fastest times of yesterday. Morel Mackenzie has just shaved over a second again, having taken a couple of seconds in the last round off his own times.
It's very interesting watching Morel Mackenzie. You can see why he put up the fastest run this time, because his lines are extremely tidy through all these dog legs. There's no sort of overcorrecting on the steering wheel, which costs you time because it's forward motion.
Particularly from this higher shot, a lot of it is anticipation and having the boat in the right place when you apply the power. And Morel Mackenzie has done that beautifully all day.
It looks, Tony, like the boat responds better than a few of the others. Perhaps it's lacking 150 pound of weight that some of the other boats have, and it's just that sideways movement that you don't have. You're not shifting that weight. But beautiful lines. Look how close to that bank.
Certainly nothing left to make up. Morel Mackenzie with an exceptionally fast time. Super driving. Very, very tidy lines, and 55.10, what might stand as the quickest time of the day. Now Fraser Hamilton bolting himself into the same boat as Morel Mackenzie has set quickest times with all day, and Fraser Hamilton's times haven't been far away. Ian Dodds, the co-driver in this 87 Macraft Sprint boat, just taking a few seconds there to get himself strapped in nice and tightly, adjust the belts. Obviously a very quick boat, Mark,
yes,
and the way that Morel Mackenzie's driving it, I think Fraser Hamilton might have a little trouble staying on the same time.
Yes, well, I actually sat on the deck of it to have a talk to him and put a big dent in it. So I had to put my hand in and pop it out. So it is very light. It's a special purpose hull, and it really does work well.
350 Chev power. Let's just see how quickly Fraser Hamilton can get the same hull around. See if he can get close to Morel Mackenzie's time of 55.10.
Well, I see we've got 350 Chevs in the final and 400, so the General's products are sort of pushing the line very hard.
Now Morel Mackenzie Mackenzie is the perfect sprint driver who can take half a second or a second off each round.
With a split time of 24.81, he was slightly slower than Morel.
It's going to be interesting if we have, for the first time in this jet sprint, the finalists in the same boat.
Let's see how tight he is around this corner. That corner tends to lose a bit of time. Yes, he's lost seconds there, Tony, on that corner.
Taking some stones in the intake, I think. 55.63 is still not a bad time. And that is the time to beat now to get into the final. Two more competitors to come, and 55.63 becomes the time to beat. Third to go in this semi-final round is Ken McDonald from Christchurch. Current world champion at marathon boating and an exceptional sprinter as well.
This is one of Hamilton's latest little sprint boats. I think they knew the course was going to be very short. The 132, the 123A, I should say, is their latest development in hulls. It's only 12 foot long, so he just tipped the shingle. He's going loose on this run. Let's see what the split is. The split is 24.41. He's still second fastest split.
This is Ken McDonald at his aggressive best. Super driving, taking a couple of shortcuts and taking a risk or two, but that's what you got to do. He must beat Fraser Hamilton's time of 55.63.
I noticed, Tony, he is looking slightly untidy when he's driving so hard. I think he's really slowed down there.
He's going to be right on the edge of this time. Too slow. 55.63, and that's 55.67. We'll have to check the official timing. Very close, but it looks like it's too slow at the moment. And the final competitor, to see if he can make the final, is Rodney Pohio in this family production boat, modified with 400 sheave power. He has a best time of 57.36. Now needs 55.63.
I noticed Rodney had the fastest split time last round, which was incredible. He did put up a good time. I do feel that hull against the others is just a wee bit longer. He's going to be really hard pressed to make a faster time.
I tell you what, it'd be a phenomenal achievement if he can get in the final.
Yeah, but he's got a bit of a soft spot for my engine. It's a 400 Chevy, so I'd like to see it do. Now, he cut that corner very off. 25.27 through the split time. He is slightly slower. I don't think he's going to make it, Tony, because he's just too slow down on the split time. Look at his concentration round there. I must admit, he swung in those corners beautifully. No slowing down of the boat at all. Never dropped off the plane. Look at that, Tony. He's taken it. He's taken the gamble.
First one of the day. It didn't pay off, but it was worth a try. 57.27 is too slow for Rodney Pohio to get into the final.
It's very interesting watching the Sonic hull, which is a very good jet sprint boat round this course. It's made of fiberglass. It's the only fiberglass boat on the course today in the top 4. So you just watch what he does with it. And it is amazing that the fiberglass boat will do this a wee bit easier than an aluminium boat. Now, he's the only guy that went through there. Now, that shallow never slowed the boat down at all because the boat has got just slippery on the bottom. The aluminium does tend to grip a wee bit.
And so our finalists are Morel Mackenzie and Fraser Hamilton, both of them in the same hull. 55.1 for Morel Mackenzie, 55.6 for Fraser Hamilton. Well, for the first time in the jet sprint, we've managed to get to the final with the same boat being driven by two drivers, Morel Mackenzie with 55.1 and Fraser Hamilton with 55.63. Well, the two of you standing there, who's the quicker?
Pass.
Looking at the times, they're very, very close getting into the final. What do you think the boat's capable of?
Oh, that's just about it. There's not much left.
You think you're on it now?
Yeah, I am.
What do you think, Fraser? You got a little up your sleeve there?
No, because I just about lost at the top, what they call the TV corner. I just about lost it there this time, so no, I was quite lucky.
I noticed in the last run that both of you were getting just a little untidy in the lines. Is it any quicker to go that way, or is it quicker, in fact, if you can hold it steadier?
No, you sometimes find the faster you try and go, the slower you do go. If you slow down a wee bit, you go faster.
Well, you've got the option in most cases in a rally sprint or a jet sprint with the fastest man having the choice of going first or second. In this case, the rules are that the first man, the fastest qualifier, has to go first. Do you see that as a disadvantage?
Oh yes, it's easy to put the pressure on your opposition, but I'll go first.
Are you happy to try and beat his time?
Oh yes, I'll give it a go. I don't know if I'll get there or not. I just want to get round.
It's a Mackcraft hull, and the motor, as you can see, was built by Wayne Mackenzie, who's a man who got third overall at the World Marathon Champs at a V12 Jag. A good engine builder, and this 350 Sham running beautifully. Morel Mackenzie first to go as the quickest qualifier. Normally in a sprint, the man who gets the quickest time into the final gets the choice.
And Tony, I was interested in you asking me, do you think he'll drive fast? But we've got a lot of money on the line. We've got a 2-week or a week trip to Hawaii, so I think they've got a lot at stake. Now with a split time at 25.15, slightly down on his last one at 24.48. So he isn't on the pace at the moment. It just shows exactly what he says. You get slightly untidy and you slow down.
Still, the object of the exercise in the final is that you've got to finish and put up a time, and then the pressure goes on to the other man in the final who's got to beat that time. Oh, getting awfully close to the banks of that last part. 56.02 with a little bit of a cough in the motor on the last straight. 56.02 is the time to beat now in the final by Fraser Hamilton. Can he beat Morel Mackenzie's time of 56.02?
It's interesting to watch the way these boats take off from the start line. The weight, they're so light that the boat just leaps clean out of the water. And you can actually see the way the boat's constructed underneath.
Fraser Hamilton and his crewman Ian Dodds just being strapped into the Mackcraft now to see if they can beat that time. Time of 56.02, not the quickest of the day. To get into the final, it was a 55.1 and a 55.6 by these two drivers, respectively. And now Fraser Hamilton has the pressure on him. In the normal rules of a rally sprint or a jet sprint format, the man who qualifies fastest into the final has the option of going first or second in the final. But in this jet sprint, the rules are that the quickest man goes first in each round, including the final, and therefore the man who qualified the quickest, who was Morel Mackenzie, had to go first in the final. Now they know what the time is that they've got to beat.
He's got a wee bit of a weight disadvantage, Tony. He's got a bigger man as a co-pilot against the woman. He's even a heavier guy himself. You could be talking as much as 4 or 5 stone in the front of the boat.
$1,500 and a trip to Hawaii rests on this run for Fraser Hamilton.
And I think, Tony, you'd need a trip to Hawaii. 25.58 for a split time. He's a wee bit slower. I really think he's going to have a problem beating Morel. Morel's always been faster too. Not just some of the time, but all the time.
It's Morel Mackenzie's boat being used by Fraser Hamilton at this stage. And Morel certainly has been the quicker throughout the day.
26.90.
56.02 and 56.90. I think that's fairly conclusive. And Morel Mackenzie has a smile and some of the tension relieved from his face as he knows he has won the Waimakariri Charisma Waterbeds Jet Sprint for 1987.